Okay, so you telling me I have to make a video? Right now? Alright, fine. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, you guys know I love making videos, man. They're fun. They're nice. Let me get this screen out of the way. I was looking at something completely different. Alright. I appreciate everybody stopping by very much for, coming and taking a look at my video. I have the Wesley So versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave game, taken from round 8. For all of my people in the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na? Let me see. Other stuff on mabuting pagbati. I'm trying to switch it up a little bit. Yeah, maraming salamat aking makaibigan for coming by and taking a look at my video very much. For anybody who is coming from France, I will say bonjour. Merci beaucoup for coming by and taking a look at my video. And je vous promets ma meilleure pour tous. Appreciate you guys very much, mes amis. Merci beaucoup, mes amis. All right. So if you guys are ready to roll, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have for this game. It's a good one. This is that fire. Anyways, let's go ahead and get it rolling. All right, so we got d4, knight comes to f6, c4, g6, knight to c3. We see d5, pawn takes d5. So we do have the Grunfeld defense, and it is the exchange variation. Pretty much whenever you have an opening and you exchange pawns in the center of the board, it's going to be like the exchange variation for the most part. It's not always what it is, but it's just differentiates between the regular and the exchanged variation of it. We got knight taking d5. We see e4. The e4 is going to be very common. I mean, if you're playing like Catalans or you're playing Queen's Gambit, stuff like that. Anytime you have this pawn that has not moved or it's moved one square, this knight hops on d5. You can't allow that knight to survive. So you're going to play e4. So we see knight takes c3, pawn takes c3, bishop comes to g7, knight to f3. And you guys know what's coming. Anybody who watches my videos, they know what's coming. Let's say it together. C5. Exactly. Yes, C5 is on the board. So it's a big surprise, I know. So we got H3. We don't want to see any bishop to G4 coming because that is going to severely undermine our support of this D4 point. So a lot of times, when you have like moderns or you have, like Catalan type situations or like Benoni's, stuff like that, when they play this G6, H3 is going to be a very, very positional type of move. You just really, really don't like that bishop coming to G4. Sometimes, when the knight is on F6, you don't want the knight popping in here too, because you do want to develop this bishop to E3. As of right now, you don't have a knight anymore, so it's not that big of an issue. So we got castles by black. We got bishop coming to E2, knight coming to C6. We see bishop to E3 now. So black is trying to put as much pressure as possible on this D4 point, and white is really, really trying to defend it. So we see pawn takes D4, pawn takes D4, and then we see F5. So black has gotten in. You guys hear me talk about, usually we don't have a video where both of them are played. You guys hear me talk about the pawn breaks being like F5 and C5 normally. Now, we do see F5 in this game as well. So black is trying literally everything that they can to try to chip away as much as possible against white's center. So it's a very, very positional, thematic type of stuff. We got bishop coming to C4. So we're taking advantage of the fact that we do have this open F file now to check the king. So we back the king up into the corner. We see castles by white. And then we see F4 by black. We got bishop down to D2. Now, black is a little bit behind in development compared to black, but they are doing they're doing pretty well still. They're going to be grabbing a pawn here, and as interesting as it seems, even though you are down a pawn as white, you have a lot of very active plays. So I'll explain in the next couple of moves like why it seems like white, even being down a pawn, it seems like they're maybe a little bit better. We got knight takes D4. Bishop to c3, knight takes f3, queen takes f3. And then we have bishop to d7. Now, like I said before, black doesn't really have a lot of issues. It's fairly even, maybe with a slight edge to white, which sounds kind of crazy because you only have 5 pawns for white and you have 6 pawns for black. But the thing you have to think about is these bishops are monsters on these diagonals. This king is really stuck in the corner of the board. You can't really push a lot. I mean, you're going to be subject to a pin coming up pretty soon. So, white has a lot of dynamic play for this pawn. So it is a very like legitimate pawn sacrifice, and we are not in the novelty of the game. So this has been seen before. But then we do immediately jump into the novelty of the game, which is rook f to d1. And it's just very simple. I mean, you know, you want to play bishop to e6. You want to win this bishop. You know, maybe trade here with check and get you an extra piece. So black has a decision that they need to make in this position. But if we back up, after bishop to d7, we have seen bishop to d5 before as of 2019. But going back to what we had in the game, we had rook f to d1. And then we see black sidestep that, going queen to c7. We see rook a to c1. And you got to kind of be a little bit careful in this position. I mean, normally you are used to, you know, the king being on a light square. Like it starts off the game right here. Oops. It starts off the game here. So it's on a light square. And then when it does castle, it's usually on this light square. So there are a lot of like, you know, bishop sacrifices and stuff that can occur on all these different squares and discovery attacks and stuff like that. So usually it's the light square bit you have to worry about. But because the king is on a dark square and we do have this bishop, you have to be very careful because you don't want to just be like, hey, man, I want a piece, because white is going to win a piece after bishop takes g7 check, king takes g7, rook takes c4. And you don't want to be in this position. Like, I don't think any chess player is going to just elect to be in this position. I'm not. I'm going to play the other thing. So after rook a to c1 comes, we do see rook a to d8, recognizing that there are some issues occurring in the position in the center of the board. So we don't want to have any part of that. So now we do see bishop to b4. We got bishop down to c6, and then we have bishop to d5 in this position. And of course, you know, we're not going to be trading and stuff like that because we're going to just be, you know, like this bishop is pinned. So, you know, we're looking good on the trade level. We got queen to e5. As you guys can see, like, you know, white is constantly attacking black. So black is constantly having to come up with these, like, you know, escaping moves for the queen. So, you know, like I said, for that pawn, you know, white has gotten a lot of dynamic play in. So that's really what you want if you sacrifice a pawn, or if you give up a pawn. Try to look for some type of dynamic play that you can kind of throw out there. So we see rook to c5. So white is just relentless. Like, you know, at the beginning of the game, you saw black just kind of like, you know, damaging all of what white had going on in the center. And then now you see, you know, white just getting like juicy tempos every single move. So we see bishop takes d5, then we see pawn takes the d5, and we're just setting up a discovery attack with d6. We see rook to d7. We do see d6. Queen comes to e6. We see pawn takes d7, rook takes d1 with check. So of course, you know, we don't have the ability to take here with check in between move because, you know, you do have to parry the check immediately. So we see queen takes d1. We got queen takes e7. We see rook down to c4, giving a little discovery attack. And also, you know, we are skewering. We're actually, we're skewering. I think it's skewer or x-ray. I'm mixed up on which one. I think it's an x-ray. You're x-raying through this queen to get this rook because it's a less valuable piece. So that's an x-ray. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong. I'm gonna have to look that up. But anyway, you do have these pieces on the same line, same diagonal. So that is a problem. So to get out of the situation, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave goes rook to d8. You know, places an attack on this queen here. Because it's like, hey, man, if you're going to get my queen, I'm going to get your queen, right? All right, cool. So we have reached a point in the game that if you do want to pause the video and see what white has at their disposal to play, go ahead and do so real quick. Okay, cool. So the interesting thing about the position is the fact that white actually has the ability to pin this rook to the king. And basically make his queen uncapturable. And unfortunately, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave does blunder rook to c8. And it is after rook to c8 that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave does resign the game completely. And basically to show you kind of like two possible scenarios, you could see rook taking c8 and then bishop would be taking e7. You know, maybe rook to e8 and then bishop back to a3. And as you guys can see, you know, you're down a pawn, but you're up an entire queen. And that's just not really fair. So going back to what we had in the game, after rook to c8, you can try queen takes b4. You know, thinking, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get this bishop. I'm still attacking your... Well, no, you're not really attacking the queen. But you're getting the bishop, right? But, you know, rook takes d8. You're forced to play bishop to f8. And then you actually have queen to d4 with check. and this is going to force the trade of queen. So after queen takes, rook takes, you can try to hold on to this pawn here with bishop to h6, or maybe even this here, but you're going to be pinning this bishop. You're going to be winning some of these pawns. So just continuing the variation here, you know, rook to d8 with check, king to g7, rook to d7 with check, king to f6, and then rook takes b7. This is just like, you know, just throwing a variation out there. But I mean, all of the variations are going to end up in, you know, white just kind of clearing up some material from black, and it's just not where you want to be. So seeing this, like I said, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave took the opportunity after rook to c8 to resign the game. So this was a pretty nice win by Wesley So, and it's just an interesting oversight by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Yeah, so that was that game, and that is coming from round 8. So Wesley So, as of now, is actually in the lead in the tournament. I will be posting the standings a little bit later on, so the afternoon to you guys in the Philippines. But to get the rest of these languages, let me see how good I'm gonna be doing right now. So maayong buntag, mayad na agahan, naimbag na bigat, masanto siya kaboson, marhe na aga, buenos dias, maayong aga, mapia na uma, kapian kapu no dios, mayap a abak, mayad na aga, mapia agay, mapia kapapita. I have my big abukla. Just where it gets tough. Spacing. My big abukla. I'm really trying not to look at my sheet. Let me see. Marja nine buntak. Na buntak. Yes. Marja na buntak. Maria might not. Is it Maupe na aga? Man, this last one is tough, man. It's a long word. It's like Kapampangan. Kasanyangan si LUB. Man, I'm like, that's the word that's sticking me, man. That one right there. I'm gonna get it though. Like, I'm almost there. You guys see that I'm like I'm like knocking on the door. So I think either the next video or tomorrow I will have it. Let me see what it was, man. Kasanyangan si LUB. I literally have the end of it. It's just that first word, man. All right, well, I appreciate everybody very much. Merci beaucoup, mes amis, and I will see y'all next time.